It was just about to start filming. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sam, and on time, promptly, so much better than June, I am giving you my July wrap-up. I know, so on time. Look at her go. Luckily, I read significantly less books, which, okay, let's talk about it for a quick second. So, in the month of June, I ended up reading 40 books. Don't recommend. Had fun while it lasted. Now it's like, okay, the burnout, the slumps, they've hit a little bit, you know? I still read 28 books in the month of July, which is a very large amount. Let's all keep in mind, like, prior to sometime last year, I typically would read between 12 and 20 books. That was like kind of my range, and now it's like consistently been over 20 for a while. So going from reading 40 books in 1 month to 28 books, time felt weird. It really felt like I have shifted to another plane. Half of the month felt like I was reading so much and was doing so good, and the second half of the month felt like I wasn't reading anything, but I've still read a lot of things. It's so weird. Sorry for the lighting change. Things on my monitors. But it's a very weird position to be in, to be like, oh, I'm reading so much, to, oh, I'm reading so much, but it feels like I'm not reading anything. I'm not gonna unpack that with you. Don't worry. It's just a weird thing that I noticed about myself this month when I was like stressing about not reading enough and not getting to everything. Like, I didn't complete my TBR from last month because I was reading other stuff, and definitely leaned a little bit more into mood reading and just like getting to what I wanted. It was just weird. It was a bizarre experience. Who knows? No, August. We're in August. August is another gonna be calm, cool, collected month for me, where I'm gonna take it easy. I have a lot of readathons that I will be co-hosting as well as just participating in the month of September. So I'm kind of like calm before the storm, taking it easy, relaxing, chilling before we get to that point, because I'm probably gonna go hard in September. I'm co-hosting 2 readathons, which I'm so excited about. They're gonna be so much fun. And then I'm also going to like start hosting sprints here soon. Please peer pressure me into it, because I keep getting spooked off a little bit and keep pushing it off. Peer pressure me into it. Wednesdays and Saturdays, reading sprints, coming back. I promise it'll happen. But having readathons to kind of sprint on, it'll be helpful. Fun things are happening, and then Aurelium's coming back in September. That's gonna be also huge. It's the autumn equinox, which is the biggest term. So anywho, chatty bits out of the way. Let's chat about the 28 books. We're not gonna talk about all of the books, so I'm sorry about that. One of them was a St. Martin's Press. If you saw my scavenger hunt video, whoops, womp womp, that happens sometimes. I won't talk about that book, but I did read another book. A lot of these are on the shorter side. Some exciting things that I'm excited to talk about. Some of these will be in an upcoming video that'll be out next Sunday, or I guess this Sunday. When you're watching this on Thursday, the Sunday coming up, we're gonna have a reading vlog, if it's the last thing that I do. So, ooh, hopefully I will probably have sprints Saturday, because I gotta read those books. I gotta get that video done. I've been putting it off for far too long. So I won't go super in depth in every book, but let's just jump in. Let's just talk about the things. Yes. So the first 2 books that I read in July really kicked off a bit of a mood, a bit of a vibe. I read Tender Beasts by Lizelle Samberry, who is the same author who wrote Delicious Monsters. Ooh, do I remember fully what this is about? So the thing is, I read 2 Dark Academia mysteries back to back, and I remember one more than the other, and I read them so close that it's like, what happened in this one? We are following siblings, which are on the like wealthier side. Their parents were like owners of a pristine private school institution like situation, and one of their siblings, their youngest sibling, is being accused of murdering a student. And it's a little, you know, uh-oh, things are bad. So Dom has to prove his innocence, but honestly isn't really doing a whole lot to help that. He's kind of like the brooding youngest son that like doesn't really care about what's going on in the family and just like tries to keep its distance, but is closest to his sister Sunny, I think. And Sunny's like, I'm gonna crack the case. Don't you worry, everybody, I'm on it. And so basically we are following these siblings going through like drama with the press, drama with the families at the school, like the wealthy elitist tendencies, while still also like weird classism issues. I thought that this was like a well-written book. Here's the thing, I like this author, I like their writing style, it works for me, but their books are simply just too long. I had the same issues with Delicious Monsters. It just felt super long, and like the middle chunk, you could really trim it down and make it a bit snappier, and we could just continue like that thriller. I guess that's the problem. I don't like mysteries as much as I like thrillers. Like, I want to be thrilled, I want to be on the edge of my seat, I want to be excited and kept on my toes and like anticipating the next thing to happen. Whereas mysteries are a little bit more like, what's happening in the story is like horrible and gripping and weirdly like you're entertained while you're still like feeling all the empathy and like, oh no, what are they gonna do to get out of the situation? This really sucks. But also so hard to care. Like, I never connected to any of these characters. I never felt gripped by the characters themselves, and so like whatever the outcomes were going to be with the family dynamics, I was like, okay, cool, whatever. Like, it just didn't have a big impact for me. But in the end, I did give it 4 stars. It's probably like a lower 4 stars, but still 4 stars nonetheless. But following this, I ended up reading Where Sleeping Girls Lie, oh goodness, by Farida Abike Imede. Oh, I'm so sorry. I've listened to the pronunciation of the last name so many times, and it just does not stick. I'm so sorry. Ugh. But this is also like a dark academia mystery. In this, we are following a young, traumatized teenage girl who's been homeschooled their whole life and is just really getting thrown in to the boarding school lifestyle. And this one had definitely a more compelling premise, but is so very character driven. It's very nice to see like these characters interacting with each other. I want to say her name was like Sadie. And when she starts school, she meets her roommate Elizabeth, I think, and is like, alright, I'm open to the new experiences, let's do this. She meets her roommate, her roommate's good friend, was that Basil? And then there's also like the Holy Trinity, which is like a group of these 3 girls, which are like kind of your mean girls of the school, and we meet Persephone. So that's kind of like our team of characters. But Elizabeth, on night 1 of this new girl showing up to school, she goes missing. Vanished out of thin air, you don't know what's going on. I am going to give so many content warnings for this story, because there were times where even I was like, I don't know if I want to be here for this story. This is a bit, it's heavy, it's a lot. I think it's very important and very needed to be talked about, and it really delves into the topics of rape culture and sexual assault on school campuses and all of those topics and feelings. And I just want you to be prepared if you pick this up. It's very long. It's well written. I wouldn't say that I loved everything about it, but I'm also not a character driven girly. Like, that's not really who I am. I also have not read their first book, Ace of Spades, so I can't compare the two, but I've seen a lot of people who have read both prefer Ace of Spades over it. So take that how you will. But overall, I did enjoying such a sad, dark book. Is so weird to say like, yeah, I enjoyed it, because it's not really enjoyment, but I got what I needed out of the story, and I felt like it did a good job talking about these things. It was never super heavy-handed, it didn't go into a lot of detail, it was just enough to make you uncomfortable and take the situation seriously while still like not being too much. But overall, I think the story was a 3.5 for me. And then, oh my god, we get to talk about something very exciting. So my friend, my pal, bookstagram friend, booktuber, mutual author coming up. I don't know how to talk about people that I like have back and forth with. Like, we sometimes we'll talk on Instagram, so it's like she's not really like a friend, but like she's also like a friend, and like parasocial relationships are kind of weird. I don't know, man. But my friend Lauren wrote a poetry collection, and it is Stay Till Sunrise, and it's so good. I have had few encounters with poetry this year. It just hasn't been hitting. I read some real bad poetry this year. So the bar was on the floor as is. Last 2 months ago in June, I read a poetry collection that was like the first good taste. But that's like a established poet who's like known for it. It's a classic kind of poet. So it's fun to read modern poets that are so good. And yeah, maybe I'm a little biased. Maybe I felt a little called out sometimes and it hurt my feelings because I felt everything, and sometimes it hurts to read poetry that also you can relate to so painfully. But also like when you know the person it's about, you're kind of like, ah, that hurts, that I'm seeing somebody that I know and care for having suffered and like seeing the pain that they've gone through and like talking about it. I think it's beautiful, but also it sucks, and like humanity is wild. But I definitely recommend this if you're looking for a little poetry collection. It's not very long. I read it over a few days and I enjoyed my time, so I do recommend it. Oh, the next one that I read was a romance. I read Funny Story by Emily Henry. You already know. I'm not a romance girl. I don't read a lot of romance, but when I do, I have a skill, you could say, of picking out the ones that I know are gonna work for me. Casey McQuiston is an author who I adore. Emily Henry has really worked for me so far. I will be some point, maybe next year, I don't know, maybe this year, but at some point I will be doing a dedicated Emily Henry reading vlog where I just read her backlist, because I've read Happy Place last year and now I've read Funny Story, and both times Emily Henry just writes to my personal experience in relationships and in life, and it really hurts. Funny Story actually made me cry twice and laugh constantly. Funny Story, by the way, you probably want to know the synopsis if you haven't heard, is following Daphne and Miles, and they're kind of in like a weird will never happen to you situation where Daphne is dumped by her fiance, Miles. No, Miles is the love, I don't remember his name. Doesn't matter? Doesn't matter. She gets dumped by her fiance to be with Peter's girlfriend. So those two pair up, and so Daphne finds herself homeless in a new city that she's never, like, she hasn't been in for very long, doesn't really know people here, hasn't really made it her own home. And so she moves in with Miles. So we've got a bit of a forced proximity. They become good friends, and then they accidentally get themselves into a little bit of a sticky situation, saying that they will be going to the wedding that they were invited to together as dates. So you got a little bit of fake dating going on in like the cutest way. Truly like such a beautiful like friends to lovers arc. They've each got like their own baggage with like their families and things going on. I really enjoyed this, and I did give it 5 stars. I'm spoiling so much of my video for Sunday. I hope you watch it. But I gave Funny Story 5 stars. I really liked it. It's my favorite of Emily Henry so far. Happy Place was also a 4-star read for me, and also like painfully realistic to my relationship. Anywho, The Queen of Nothing by Holly Black. I always want to say Holly Jackson because I also read those, and it's a problem. The Queen of Nothing is the 3rd and technically final installment to The Cruel Prince, which means that I read it. I will now be jumping in to the new duology. I have very mixed feelings about The Queen of Nothing. I love Jude and Carden oh so much. Oh my god, I'm obsessed with them. But we don't see a whole lot of them in this one, and the conflicts just felt like they wrapped up so quickly, and we were leading up to like this big climax, and then it kind of fizzled out and deflated so quickly, and I was just kind of wanting and expecting more from the whole ending of what a beautiful trilogy. My favorite of the 3 is The Wicked King. I fucking love that book. The book was so good. It was so good. So I was a little disappointed with how this ended. I've had really bad luck though with endings of series this year. We'll talk about that in my next wrap up for August. Yikes, man. Queen of Nothing, I still really love all these characters. I'm still happy to have concluded the series. I'm excited to see, I think her name's Paige. I hope it's Paige. I'm so sorry. I'm excited to see her next video, deep dive essay, where she recaps the whole plot to me because I love those videos. Anywho, yes. But yeah, I read it. It's still like a 5-star because I love the characters so much and they make me so happy to see them together. And I just personally need more fan service. I'll say it. Have I considered reading The Cruel Prince AU fanfiction? Maybe. Moving on. The Resort. I read, okay, so we're getting into the things that I read for Summerween, which is very exciting. So the first one that I read was The Resort by Sarah Oakes. I won't say I don't recommend it, but I also don't recommend it. The Resort is about, like, a resort on, I want to say it's Thailand. They are working at this resort. There are a bunch of travelers that are like escaping their life from wherever, end up at this resort and work there. We're following a few perspectives, but Cass being one of the main girls, and she works at this resort and is like the surfer trainer. And then we've got another perspective, Brooke, who's like this snobby travel social media influencer. I don't know how to talk about this book. It's long, it's boring. Brooke is trying to solve something, and Cass has kind of run away from the States because of like her secret past traumas, and they're some of the two most insufferable characters I've had to read in quite some time. Like, I just couldn't stand either of them, and the twists all at the end were just dumb, became a little predictable, weren't fun, and I didn't like it. I didn't like it. I'm sorry. It just like it did not work for me. I would be intrigued to give this book to like my mom and see what she ends up thinking, because she doesn't read as many horror thrillers like I do, and so I'd wonder if like someone who doesn't read as often would get more out of the book. I'm always trying to think of those things. I don't not recommend it, I just didn't like it for me. The next book that I read was You Know What You Did by Katie Nguyen, and I also have complex feelings about this one. I really like the writing style. It really worked for me. I think that the own voices for the OCD rep was incredibly like well done, and I felt a lot of compassion. I loved the horror elements. I hope this author goes down the path of horror in the future. In this, we are following Annie, who is married to her husband Duncan, and they have a teenage daughter Tabitha, and they've got a lot of strict and family dynamics. And then there's also Annie's mom, who lives in like the back part of the house, like in like a shed kind of, and she dies pretty early on in the book, and so Annie's kind of dealing with this grief, but also her OCD starts acting up and things are starting to get weird and wonky. Duncan leaves for like a business trip, and Tabby is just being a menace of a child, and you're really like taken on quite a journey. Like, this book, I'm gonna be honest, reflecting upon it, feels like two separate books. I don't think that the author has done a bad job. I think the writing is good. I think it feels like a debut classic mystery thriller. Like, you can, if you're used to the books, you may pick up on the twist that's gonna come. I was a little bit surprised because I wanted things to be different personally, but everything made sense. Like, it worked for the storyline. I mostly like this for the horror writing elements surrounding bugs, so if that freaks you out, you'll either have a great time or a horrible time. And like, seeing her OCD rep, it's not a character that you're going to necessarily like, it's not a story that you're going to necessarily enjoy the whole way through, but at the same time, like, I couldn't put it down. I didn't want to stop reading it. I wanted to know what was going to happen. I was very invested in everything, even though I hated half the characters. It was just like a very interesting read that I haven't had many experiences like that, where I'm just like, oh, I hate everything that's happening, but it's like watching a car crash. You're just like, I can't look away. So much is going on. Oh no. The next book that I read was Lake House by Sarah Beth Durst. And I don't really have a whole lot to say about this one. It is a classic YA thriller, horror, mystery. It is set at a summer camp on a lake. Yeah, we're following 3 girls who are quickly thrown into a friendship together. They all arrive late to the camp together. Well, yeah, together because they arrive by boat. Is my personal hell. That sounds so not fun. Like, I like summer camp, but I could go home. No phones too? No, thank you. Anywho, once they get there, the camp is not what they thought it was going to be. Is that a spoiler to say? Oh my god, I just... yeah, that's considered a spoiler, you dumb... Okay. Anywho, these 3 girls show up late to this summer camp, and they notice that the lodge is completely burnt down. There's nobody else around, and they don't have cell service or their phones, and they have no way of connecting to the outside world and getting safety. Yikes. They had to take a boat to get to the, like, main lodging, and so they have to wait for the boat guy to come back. They can't contact him, and he's not supposed to come back for, like, a while. So they're surviving on this island, but also they find a dead body in the woods, and, like, things aren't looking good, besties. Oh my god, have I been talking for that long? I talk way too much in these videos. My goodness, I'm so sorry. I really like the friendship dynamics. Like, they have not known each other for very long, but they were kind of thrown into the situation where it's like, we have to like each other, there's no other option. But I still really enjoyed, like, those tender moments between them when it's like, something is happening, we're being hunted, something is not right here, but at the same time, like, we get these tender moments of like, well, this is what my family situation is like, and it's kind of tough, and like, this is what it feels like to be a young girl. I just really enjoyed that about the story. Like, when it came down to it, the friendship that they had with each other really held strong for me to carry me through the whole book. I thought it was entertaining and fun. Definitely not like my favorite YA horror, but it was definitely like good. Okay, continuing. Oh, okay. Let's talk about My Darling Dreadful Thing super quick. This will also be in my video, so full lots soon to come. So sorry. I really like this though. I thought the writing was beautiful. It is not... I didn't go into this knowing what it was about, so I don't really want to tell you a whole lot. But it was nothing like I expected or thought it would be. And I really, 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 really liked it. It's not quite a 5-star horror, but it was delectable. What I will say is that in this, you're following a young girl who is kind of, she's a con artist. She's a con artist with her adoptive mother, and she will guess that she is their loved ones possessing her to talk to them. And she gets sold to this other lady who is interested in her situation. And it's a lovely story. It's told in such a fun and unique way where you're following 2 different timelines, and I just really, really enjoyed that setup for it. I also just love the idea of a con artist faking possessions. That's so fun. That's so of the era. I couldn't tell you the time of this. Like, it could be 1800s. Probably, maybe. I don't know. I'm really not good at that. I really enjoyed that aspect. Like, I love watching ghost TV shows and YouTube channels, even if I don't necessarily believe it, but like, oh, I would also probably get so sucked into the idea of like a con artist being like, ooh, your family. And yeah, no, I think that would be very fun. So I like that as a premise for a book. 4 stars. Okay, moving on. Summer Camp for Slasher Victims. Yee. This was okay. It's on the shorter side, which is nice. It's literally a summer camp for traumatized children to go get untraumatized by non-licensed children who have no experience but their typical own trauma, to help them through their life, their struggles, what have you. Which is like an interesting premise, but also so weird. And then yeah, as you would expect, a slasher does happen. I predicted, just about beat for beat what was going to happen in the story. I kind of just knew what was going on the whole time, but I was still entertained. I wouldn't say the writing was like great, but I wouldn't say it was a bad time either. Yeah, it was predictable, but like, you got what you expected out of it. I'm not like the biggest slasher reader either though, so like I don't have a lot to compare it to. So, a mid-fine book. Okay, continuing, Yellow Jessamine by Caitlin Starling. I was so excited. This is a little novella. I love The Death of Jane Lawrence so much. So much. It is such a good book. And so I was hoping this would kind of give me that itch that I've been really missing, because this is like a gothic, sapphic love story, but it's short, and I was like, yes, give it to me. I was bored. I didn't care. I was not invested. I thought the writing was so just bland and fine and whatever. I didn't care. I liked the idea. The concept was great. The concept is basically like this remote area or island or whatever a plague is brought into their area, and it makes like everybody infatuated with our main girl. Like everyone just becomes an absolutely like unhinged obsession with her, and that's like a fun idea, but I just didn't feel like it went anywhere. So that was that. Next I read When Among Crows by Veronica Roth. This was good, but not like a new favorite thing. This is also a novella, and it's following like Polish Slavic folklore, I think. I enjoyed the characters in this a lot. I really enjoyed the ending. I like the writing. The plot itself was like so-so for me. I just was kind of like getting through it. I don't typically pick up urban fantasies, but this one I think was done well. Maybe because it was in like a shorter dose. I was like, yeah, cool. Great, good job. Overall, like, I definitely recommend When Among Crows. I think a lot of people are finding a lot of success in it. I gave it 4 stars. I enjoyed the queer rep in it as well, but I overall, like, I liked it. It just wasn't like my favorite thing. Quickly moving on, we've got The Lottery, the authorized, the official graphic adaptation by Miles Hyman. I think that's like her grandson or great-grandson or whatever. I didn't need to see the naked woman getting, it just didn't need to be there. I would have rather just have read The Lottery. It wasn't hard to figure out what was going on very early on. There's no surprise. The art style wasn't my favorite, and I just didn't care. Moving on, another graphic novel that I read was In by Will McPhail. This is like a sweet little slice of life graphic novel where you're following this man, and he's just like making connections with people and trying to understand humanity in people, and like how to have deeper conversations even with a stranger, like even with your plumber. Like, how can we talk, how can we discuss things that matter? And not really getting that very often. But there's also some romance and things happening with his family, and it was a nice slice of life, but it wasn't anything to super gung-ho over. Like, it wasn't something that like I could obsess or like fall in love with, but I liked the premise and idea. Honestly, should have been longer. I wish that there was more said in it. The next thing that I read was The Haunting of Elkwood, which I really enjoyed. I almost gave this one 5 stars. I really, really, really enjoyed this. I do highly recommend it. I think the writing is stunning. I love these characters. I love the premise of like this ghost town. Like, literally, it's just this one street with like nobody can get in, nobody can come out, but it's like this time capsule where it's everybody inside is reliving the same day over and over again. And there were only 3 girls from the neighborhood that got out and are able to go back in. And like many years later, oh, she's coming back. She's coming back to the town, and she's gonna figure it out. And it's just, the quotes hit. The writing was so good. I love these characters. I loved seeing overall theme and plot unravel through the story. It was good. Oh, it was good. I really enjoyed it. I want to say like anyone should read it. Everyone should read it. It's just something that really worked for me. But I don't know if like everybody's gonna love it. It's a bit slower. You're really just like seeing things happen. You've got like this weird paranormal thing that's like unexplained. I don't know. I really liked it. I don't know what to say. So sorry. I liked it. Next thing that I read was Never Whistle at Night. This is a anthology written by a bunch of Indigenous authors. I went into this hoping and wanting something that I did not get out of this story. So objectively, I think that it is a fine, well done anthology. I think that the authors did what their intent was. They said the things that they needed to say. Heavy, heavy trigger warning on the stories Sundays. I almost had to skip that one. I didn't, but it not an easy read or listen. I wanted way more paranormal, weird, supernatural stories rather than like real life horror. It's just one of those things where it's like, okay, I wanted like spooky monsters to come out and get me at night rather than the monsters are humans and things are bad. Sometimes I want escapism in my horror, okay? The next thing that I read was All the Dead Lie Down by Kyrie McCauley. And this is a young adult horror. Could you tell the mood that I was in? And I love this cover so much. It's just such a pretty, gorgeous cover. We've also got another beautifully sapphic book. We are following a young girl who moves in as like a nanny after her mom dies to an old friend of her mom's, and she is like this super famous author that our main character also is like a big fan of, and she's got 3 daughters, one who's off at boarding school and then 2 younger kids that she's kind of like nannying, taking care of, watching. That's kind of like your premise and setup, but then like weird things are happening at this manor. It's pitched as Bly Manor meets House of Salt and Sorrows, and I can definitely see those comp titles, like where they came from. I wouldn't perfectly align them with that, but I do see where it comes from and I enjoy it. I really liked the characters. I liked the weird fantasy elements to it, but overall, besides like the ending and pacing issues, I did enjoy it and I like the story well enough. Moving on, Goblins in Greatcoats by Travis Baldree. My first time reading this offer, because for whatever reason I just don't want to pick up Legends and Lattes in bookshops and Bodas. Will I think I like them? Probably. Will I pick them up? Yeah. Why haven't I? I don't know. I'm annoying that way, but this is like an 18-page short story that I think went over my head, maybe just a little bit, but it really, I think, kickstarted the problem within me. Not problem. That's mean to myself. I think it solidified that I'm burnt out from reading and was like in a bit of a reading slump and was like, what if I watch D&D again? And so that's been my life lately. I've been watching so much D&D. I'm rewatching Death to Divinity, my favorite D&D live play. I've been watching so much Dropout TV. Oh my god, I love Dropout TV so much. Best subscription I've ever paid for. So that's been a lot of my free time. It's like, okay, Sam, listen to an audiobook at work in the morning, and then as a treat for your lunch, you can watch some D&D. So that's been my life recently, and I think this kind of helped with that because it feels so D&D. Like a goblin rogue walks into a bar and things go murder mystery horribly wrong. You've got the paladin and the elves and all. It's just, I really enjoyed it. Like if I was to write short stories, this is probably what it would be. Is like an elf walked into a bar and a dwarf was sitting there. What happens? Like so fun, so kooky. Really enjoyed it. I did check it out. It's free. I don't remember where. I don't remember who's giving it out for free, but I'm sure if you Google it, you'll find it. Next thing that I read was Antibot, and I'm going to save most of my thoughts for my video. But this is a short and complex story following Annie, who is a cuddlebot, and her owner slash partner, Doug, who is ashamed of having this very developed AI cuddlebot, while like being the blueprint of what the company wants their AI cuddlebots to end up like and all be like. And you really just go on a journey with Annie, and so much happens, and it's so many complex emotions that I felt that I am refusing to unpack. But I think it's a very good book. I highly do recommend it if like you're okay with the content of the book being following a sex bot primarily, and that's like being her main function and the things that happen in the book. I don't want to spoil or talk too much about it, but yeah, I did read that and I did give it 4 stars. I do recommend it if you're comfortable with it, but it's weird and it's also kind of a lot, and if you're, I don't know, like me at all, you're gonna have complex feelings by the end. fun to deal with. Moving on. Then I read The Last Time I Lied by Riley Sager, which is his summer camp horror, mystery, thriller. I did also read Middle of the Night like a week after, so I'm gonna try my best to not confuse the two because whoops. I enjoyed The Last Time I Lied. I remember for the Middle of the Night live show, before we went live, Kayla was like, quick, on the spot, tell me your ranking. And I was like, okay. And I give it, and I don't know if it's the same today. I couldn't tell you where my ranking lies, but I did give Last Time I Lied 4 stars. I really enjoyed it in some aspects, but also maybe could have been like a little bit quicker in the pace, just shorter. I think that might just be like a me problem right now, is I just want short books and not long books. This is following 2 timelines. We have the past timeline where our main character, Emma Davis, went to this summer camp, befriended some older girls, kind of got in the like mean girl popular summer camp clique, and a very tragic incident happened where her 3 cabin mates go missing. So that happened. The camp, I think, shut down for a time and is being brought back, and Emma has been invited as a counselor, like a camp counselor, for this like reunion relaunch of the camp, whatever. Emma is trying to like figure out what happened all those years ago, but also is poking around like the camp, and people are like, stop it, maybe. She's a camp counselor, so she's like in charge of other children, and like there's a lot of just like weird things happening in the camp. I thought it was well done. I thought that, you know, out of like the Riley Sager kookiness, it's a little bit on the more kooky side, but not too drastic. Like, I would recommend it to a good amount of thriller readers. I think you can always expect Sager to be like a compulsive read. Like, you can pick it up and then you're gonna fly through it. There's just something about his writing that does it. Even if it's bad, you just can't put it down. But yeah, I did enjoy this one. I liked the reveals, I liked where it went, I enjoyed the characters. Like, it was just overall like a good book. I wouldn't say it was like my favorite of the Sagers, but I did have fun. We're skipping that one. The Age of Magical Overthinking by Amanda Montell. This is a nonfiction. It's talking about Instagram and manifestation and like seeing things that aren't real and then perceiving them, and like taking on the burdens of like how you are comparing yourself to other people and how it's not real, and like those kind of conversations. I didn't really walk away. Like, I gained a lot from this story. Like, it was just so-so story. It's nonfiction. It's not a story. Because I haven't read her other nonfictions, I don't know a lot about her, so like she's giving a lot of personal anecdotes and like talking about like her past relationship with this guy and so on and so forth, and I was like, yeah, that's like fine. It's not adding anything to the story though, for me personally. The next thing that I read was The Eyes Are the Best Part by Monica Kim. This is a debut horror that I was really excited for, and I have my Evernight down there, and I think that's the book in there, and I gave this 2.5 stars. Like, I just found it very mediocre. I think a lot of people are gonna like it. The like eye stuff did make me a little squeamish, but the overall story, I felt like I was just lacking in the exploration of the characters, because it's fully like character focused. The horror around the eyeballs, again, were like gross and good and like made me like, you know? It's not what I wanted out of the story, and I think you can, like, if you want a story like this, I'm going to say go for something like Mayfly, which is just gonna go that extra mile, more extreme, more just wacky, and I kind of just wanted that from this. This was a tame version of that in a way. We are following Jinwan, and her dad leaves, her sister, and her mom is pretty heartbroken and distraught and not doing so well, and then eventually finds herself in a relationship with this new guy, Jeff, who is white and heavily fetishizes Asian women in a very gross and disgusting way. No, George. So sorry, Jeff. That's the friend who also sucks. Yeah, so George has like a fetish for Asian women, and it's gross, and our main character starts having dreams about his eyeballs, and she starts eating fish eyes and starts thinking about what if the blue eyes, she just kind of gets obsessed with this concept of eating his eyes. And yeah, the imagery is gross. I don't recommend it. I think my issue with this book was the characters didn't feel deep or fleshed out, and I felt like they were more caricatures of people. I had the same issue with another book that I rated kind of low, where all of the men are just blatantly the worst. Like, there's no nuance ever. It's just everybody sucks, everyone's bad, and there's not really like neutrality with situations like that. It's just every guy in the book is bad. Let's talk about feminism. And I don't love that. Like, I love a feminist story, but I don't know. It just is like a little, I wanted more from the characters. I really wanted more from the characters. I think that the ending was fine. It was just kind of, you know, but I'm glad that it wasn't super long. The next thing that I read was In the Roses of Pariah by Anne Burke. This is another Suffolk horror? Yeah, dark academia. Oh, what is this about? Oh, okay, it's coming back to me. So this is about our main character. Her name is Clara. She is like a teacher. Life is so for her. She's like, whatever, I don't really care about things. And she gets the opportunity of a lifetime to go to this like remote location where her whole new job, 6-figure paying job, is to like translate this old historian ledger of like this old woman of history. I'm losing it again. She's like historical figure though. She's gonna translate these letters, which were like romance letters to her paramour or whatever. And so she goes, and there's a little sapphic relationship with the assistant of the girl who of the woman who owns the estate, and they're sweet, but also like they fight. And there's something about like seeing realistic relationships, but it's sapphic, does it for me. Enjoy that. I would say that it kind of reminded me of An Education in Malice without the beautiful prose. The writing style of this didn't really work for me. It might have been the narrator, it might have been the writing style. I'm not perfectly sure, but one of them weren't working for me. So it took me longer to get into the story, but once I got in it, I was a little bit more intrigued. You tell me vampires, I say hell yeah. I'm an easy reader. It doesn't take a lot to impress me. So I was pretty interested in like them having this relationship, and somehow vampires are going to be involved, and I didn't know how or what was going on. Could have been shorter, but it's fine. This is going to be a series, which I don't know how I feel about it. The way that the story ends, it's like, okay, I guess we're doing this. So I think I would have rather the ending be a little bit different and we had a standalone book, especially because there's been no news from what I've found about the sequel, and so it's like, what's the point? We could have ended it and it would have been fine, but it's fine. So yeah, I don't think it was bad. I'm intrigued to check out the next book whenever it comes out, but I might quickly change my mind. Like if it doesn't come out for 2 years, I might at that point just like abandon hope and not continue. So I don't know currently, but well, we'll see. The next two we're going to talk about are the first 2 books in a trilogy, and I read A Curse So Dark and Lonely. A Curse So Dark and Lonely. I want to say lovely every time. A Curse So Dark and Lonely, and A Heart So Fierce and Broken by Bridget Kemmerer, who wrote Defy the Night, which I own on my shelves, haven't read it. This is the series that came before Defy the Night. I really liked the first one. I think following Harper, who's from like New York, thrown into this like fantasy world, having to just figure everything out. I really enjoyed that. I liked that premise. She has cerebral palsy, so it was fun seeing her balance this new way of life and accepting her fate while like dealing with an actual disability and how that like changes things. I really enjoyed Ren. I love Gray. I shipped Gray and Harper so hard in that book. I was like, this is the OTP. I really liked the first book. I didn't mind the second book, it was like, okay. And I will spoil you a little bit, the third book was so fucking bad. Like, upsettingly so, but whatever. This is basically following Harper, who, like I said, is kidnapped from New York and thrown into this alternate universe, parallel, magical world of whatever sorts. And it's very Beauty and the Beast, where, like, Prince Ren is this misunderstood, cranky guy, and Harper's like, I don't want to be here, this sucks, I'm gonna try and flee, I'm gonna try and help your kingdom. And then, you know, they like kind of fall in love, and like things are cute and sweet, and I really enjoyed the journey with these characters. I love the characters, they had motivations that made sense. And then in the second book, their motivations no longer made any sense, and we have a new love interest, and I was just like, what is happening? So, what a horrible way to end my reading month, but it's fine. I will just pretend that A Curse to Dark and Lonely was a beautiful standalone fantasy. So, that's all the books that I read. Was this video still too long? Yeah, I don't... It's like I read those books. It won't be 50 minutes like the last one. How do I talk so much? I'm a professional yapper. Welcome to the YouTube channel. If you made it this far, put a rose in the comments. Say that you made it. Which, if you did, thank you so much. I'm so sorry. I don't know how this happens to me every time. But yeah, I was going to give you stats for my reading month, but we've been here for so long, I won't put you through that. So, I'll put a couple maybe in like the description if you're like super curious, or like a pinned comment or whatever. But thank you for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed, and I hope that you have a lovely day. I will see you guys hopefully Saturday for some reading sprints, if not Sunday for my big cool reading vlog, which I'm gonna go review one of the books right now. So I will see you guys there. Bye!